Mia barely remembered her biological father, as her parents had divorced when she was just 4 years old. For several years, she lived alone with her mother, and Mia cherished this period as her mother spent a lot of time with her. On weekends, they often went to the movies or the park together, which was incredibly enjoyable and fascinating. Everything was going well, but then Mia's mother decided to remarry, and in Mia's view, this decision ruined everything. Tony was a decent man who tried to befriend Mia. He constantly brought her gifts, but Mia couldn't bring herself to like him. The new presence in her life became a problem for the little girl. "We can't go to the zoo with you today because Tony and I have our own plans for the evening," Mia's mother would say, greatly disappointing her daughter. "So, now I'll be left alone at home while you both go out without me?" Mia became even more upset. At that moment, Tony tried to console the girl. "We have some personal matters to attend to today, but we'll all go out together next weekend." However, Mia was putting on public displays of defiance, openly rejecting her mother and Tony's every attempt to connect. Not even her favorite chocolate candies as a bribe swayed her, as Mia staunchly maintained her persona of being hurt and unhappy. Jasmine was genuinely concerned about her daughter's emotional state and did everything in her power to improve Mia's relationship with Tony. Yet, it proved to be a challenge, and their interactions even escalated to the point where they decided to divorce without unnecessary drama or attention. "Look, we'll become friends, and everything will be fine. Mia just needs some time to get used to my presence," Tony said, hopeful that the girl would eventually change her feelings. Mia couldn't explain why she disliked her stepfather so much. She saw him as an obstacle that prevented her and her mom from spending time together. Despite Tony's efforts to bond with the girl and be her friend, Mia continued to display acts of disobedience and rejected his good intentions. Tony didn't pressure Mia. He just tried to find a way to connect with her. He couldn't understand why all his efforts seemed hostile to Mia. She saw him as the divider, taking away the carefree and peaceful days of just her and her mom for the past 5 years. The situation became more complicated as Mia entered her teenage years. She couldn't quite explain why she harbored such strong animosity toward her stepfather, who, despite her numerous outbursts and rebellious acts, responded with patience and restraint. To her, he symbolized disruption and changes that she was unwilling to accept. Jasmine was always worried about her daughter's emotional state and did her best to ease the situation, but due to Mia's youthful idealism and selfishness, she only thought about herself and often spoke ill of Tony or caused scenes. When Tony suggested buying Mia a new laptop to improve her studies, she agreed. She was convinced that her real father would do the same. Tony also agreed, saying, "Don't worry, we'll figure something out, and we'll definitely get you a computer." After such conversations, Mia would usually stomp off to her room, loudly slamming the door and avoiding any interaction with her family. In the following days, she would create chaos, running off to her friend's house and returning home only before bedtime. By this time, the distressed family members usually forgot the reasons for their conflict and were just relieved that their wayward daughter was back, alive and unharmed. Even these tumultuous times were relatively peaceful compared to what would happen after Jasmine and Tony considered having a child together. Tony had no children of his own and dreamed of having a son. "I'm already 38, and I earn well. I can easily support our big family," he insisted. Jasmine agreed and placed her complete trust in her husband. She longed for the birth of a little son or daughter and was certain that everything would be wonderful. However, they both understood that they needed to explain this to Mia carefully and patiently. Jasmine spent some time searching for the right approach and opportunities to talk to her daughter. She then clearly and sensibly explained the possibility of having a little brother or sister. She hoped Mia would understand and accept this decision correctly. However, when Mia heard this news, she erupted into a massive argument. "I will never accept a possible sibling," she yelled at her mother. "Have you completely lost your mind? You're both over 40, and now you want to play at being young. We don't need a perpetually crying baby in our house. Will that be your flesh and blood? No, thank you. You'll be walking through life together and supporting each other in tough situations." Jasmine tried to console her daughter, saying, This will be your own flesh and blood. Don't remain indifferent. Later in life, you'll be supporting each other in challenging situations. But Mia was resolute. I don't want any brothers or sisters. So, I suggest we close this topic once and for all, she concluded, choosing her words without much consideration during her fiery outburst. Over the next year, the spouses attempted to revisit this topic periodically, but each time, it resulted in a heated argument and strained relations with Mia. Jasmine was deeply distressed and often in tears, while Tony did his best to support and console her. On one occasion, he took the opportunity when his wife was delayed at work to try and have a conversation with his stepdaughter. Please understand us. You're nearly an adult, and you'll soon be leaving for higher education. Your mom and I love each other very much, and we want to share our love not just with you but also with another child, Tony calmly explained. However, Mia remained adamant. I don't need your sappy stories. You know my opinion, and I have no intention of changing it. If you find life boring, I promise to stir things up to make sure you won't want anything in the near future. Mia kept her promise and created numerous problems and discomfort for her parents. Once, she even turned off her phone and didn't return home after school. Her parents scoured the entire neighborhood, called classmates and teachers, and even involved the police. All the while, the girl was sitting at her friend's summer house, unaware of the teenager's plan. Her parents sought help from the friend, who convincingly claimed she knew nothing about the reasons behind Mia's disappearance. Mia returned home 4 days after her escape, displaying a visible air of triumph. Well, I hope you've understood that I'm not joking, and next time, I'll come up with something else if you don't stop bothering me with your concerns and crazy ideas. On that day, Jasmine, exhausted and drained, struck her wayward daughter for the first time. She had no strength left for further confrontations. After delivering the slap, Jasmine turned and walked into her room. Mia overheard her mother crying and trying to console her. Tony, at one point, felt an urge to join them and talk, but he suppressed it, thinking that showing such a sign of weakness and wavering resolve would be a mistake. Although Mia was hurt by the slap, she remained convinced of the righteousness of her actions. Her parents were no longer preoccupied with thoughts of having children or making grand plans, which suited her just fine. A classmate named Tess told Mia, "You should have seen how your parents were running around the city looking for you. It's nothing serious. It's good for them, so they won't come up with any foolish ideas. I don't understand why you're doing this. Everything was fine in your family." However, harmony and happiness in the household never returned after the dramatic incident. Jasmine ceased radiating positivity and went about her daily chores quietly and resigned. Tony tried to avoid Mia and even worked on weekends, leaving his wife and stepdaughter alone. The events in this family story unfolded in a complex and multifaceted manner. Initially, the parents, Jasmine and Tony, sought to expand their family and wanted a child together. However, their desires clashed with Mia's categorical refusal, believing that she didn't need a brother or sister. This situation led to conflict and even Mia's escape. The rift in the relationship between Mia and her parents ultimately resulted in Jasmine and Tony's divorce. The parents were forced to find new paths and identities separately, losing the joy and harmony that once characterized their family. Mia grew older, moved away for her higher education, and eventually started her own family. She felt like a victor. However, when she met Tony and saw his current marital status, she realized her actions and her role in her mother's family falling apart. This story underscores the importance of open communication and understanding within a family to avoid such ruptures and conflicts. It also illustrates how pride and a refusal to acknowledge one's mistakes can impact family relationships and lead to family breakdown.